Hi, kindergarten writers. Today for Writers Workshop, I'm going to be showing you some of the things that we've learned about in Writers Workshop, and you are going to get a checklist at the very end to help you remember to do these things each time you write. And we're going to practice this all week long, okay? So right now I'm just going to go through the pictures and I'm going to show you the things that I put on your checklist to help you remember what to do. This first one is something called a thought bubble. And sometimes you'll see this in stories and in books. And if a character is thinking something, they have these little circles and then kind of like a cloud, different than a speech bubble, but this is a thought bubble. And you don't have to have that in all your writing. You certainly could, but you don't have to. But the reason I have this on here is because the very first thing that we do when we're writing a story is to think of an idea. Remember that you can write about places, you can write about people, you can write about anything you want, as long as it's something that you know about, right? I'm not going to write about uh, loons because I don't know much about them. Now I can learn about them and then write about them, but I want to write about things that I know about. Maybe they're true things and maybe they're not true things, but you need to think about something you know about that you want to write about. I'm going to go on to the next page here because as you are writing your story, one thing you want to think about, this is a little bit fuzzy here, but these are houses. You see a house and a school and a castle. One thing you want to be thinking about is the setting. Where does the story happen? That's what setting means. Where does the story happen? Does it happen at the park? Does it happen at a school? Does it happen at your house? And you don't always have to write that in words. You could include that in your picture as well. But you have to make sure that your story happens somewhere, even if that somewhere is outer space or a swimming pool, anywhere you want, but it has to happen somewhere. This next picture is to remind us that our story has to have a character. So a character is who's in the story. And remember, a story doesn't have to be about a person. It could be about an animal or a thing, as long as they can feel or think or act. So make sure that your story is about something. There's someone doing something or feeling something or thinking something in your story. Oops, I didn't make this one bigger. This one is, do you remember we talked about the big moment, the big picture, and then you zoom in on these little tiny moments in a story so that you can have detail. We talked about the big watermelon and the tiny seeds. When you're doing your story, make sure that you have zoomed in and you've got those little tiny details that make stories so fun to read and so interesting. The next one we have is to draw the picture. So you are going to draw a picture that matches your story. Now, if I want to write a story about a spaceship, would this be a good picture? It wouldn't, because that's not what this is about, unless I drew a little spaceship up here, right? Your story should match your picture. So when you're drawing your picture, make sure that it has something to do with your story. You can see this picture probably isn't finished yet because I don't see a character unless maybe that house is going to start talking or thinking or acting, right? Maybe the tree. But so far, this looks like just showing us the setting. So your next job is to draw the picture. And this one, a little too big and blurry. This one, the next thing you can do on your picture is to label the picture. And to do that, you remember we just draw a line and then this says tree. And so you can label different things in your picture, and that helps you with your writing and helps you to get some letters down on your paper as well. Next, we have listening to the sounds you hear. So this is just a picture reminder. This is a cap. So if you were going to write that word, you would hear k, ah, p, and then you would write down those sounds. So the next thing we do is just to listen to the sounds in your story and try to get as many sounds as you can, thinking about those letters that we're learning when we do our ABCs, right? And then this one is to read over your work and make sure it's all set, right? Make sure that you can retell your story. Make sure it's all set. If you get your story done, you look at it and you think, I don't know what my story was, then you have to do some work to fix that, because when you're all finished, you should be able to look at your story and read it. Now, Remember, reading and writing can be just pictures too. So that's okay. But if you're showing just a picture, you need to make sure that you can tell the story that you see there on your page. So this little girl is just sharing the story that she wrote. And then this one here is to remind us when you're all done with all those things and you've looked at your story and you can retell it, do you feel proud of your work? Do you feel like you did your best? Do you feel like you did a good story? Do you feel like others are going to like it? Do you feel proud? Do you feel happy about what you did? Do you love your work? I hope you do. And the last one is kind of one that we're going to be thinking about this week, and that's to find a partner or find a buddy and share your work. In this picture, this little girl is sharing it with her dad, but you could share it with any grown up at your house. You could share it with your brother or sister, share it with a lovey at your house or a stuffy. You could share it with a pet, or you could share it with me or your teacher on Seesaw. So you want to share your work, and what that means is to hold your work up and tell the story and show the pictures. Okay? So that's kind of what we're going to be adding this week, is to share your work. Now this is a picture of, I better move me. This is a picture of the checklist that we have. So let's take a look here. You can see the pictures match what I just went through. So when you look at your work today, I want you to look, did you have an idea? This says, I have an idea. And if you do, you can cross out this box, check, I did that. Does your work have a setting? If it happens in a place somewhere, yep, it has a setting. Remember, these don't all have to be in writing. They can be just in your picture too. The next one, do you know what this one is? Do you remember? I have a character. Is there a character in your story? Is there someone your story is about? If you do, check this off. This next one's a little bit tricky, but this says, I zoomed into a small moment. So I want you to think about what we learned last week. And if you zoomed into a small moment, if you gave some details about it, you can check that one off. If you have a picture, check this one off. If you labeled some things in your picture, maybe like this one, remember, had the tree and they wrote tree, and do the best that you can to get some of the letters that you hear. Check that one off if you have it. I wrote the sounds that I heard. If you wrote the sounds you heard, doesn't mean you have to have all of them correct, but if you tried your best and wrote as many as you could, go ahead and check this off. This one says, I can retell my story. So if you could look at your story and tell it again, you can check this. Then we have, I am proud of my work. I sure hope everybody checks that one off, and you'll be proud of your work. And the very last one says, I shared my work. So when you go through your writing today, I want you to try to check these off on Seesaw and then take a picture of your work and send it to me. You're going to do your writing in your journal. And remember, if you filled up your first one, you got a second one in your materials pickup. So find the next page and you're going to write in your journal. Then you're going to go through this checklist and try to cross some things off. You might have to have a grown-up help you the first couple times. And if you don't get this all correct today, that's okay. We're going to work on it all week long. Okay, so I just today wanted to show you the big picture of all this, of what we're doing, and we'll practice it all week. Okay. Also, you can click on those little caption things in the bottom of Seesaw, and that'll have me saying what each of these are again, so you don't have to watch this whole video. So I will read these to you if you forget what the checks are or what the checks are for. Okay, good job, writers. I can't wait to see your work, and I hope that you are as proud of your work as I am of you for working so hard in Writers Workshop. Great job, everyone.